Did you ever think how epic it would be if some thought-to-be-dead and gone characters actually returned in Boruto? How would you react if Itachi returned? How about Madara? Jiraiya? Damn, don't tell me that the trio Minato, Naruto, and Boruto fighting together would not be epic. But how likely is each character to return? Well, that's exactly what we'll be doing in today's video. Normally, we would say that we'll begin with the ones that have slim to no chances of returning, and by the end of the video, we present the ones we believe are almost guaranteed to return. But now, let's do something a bit more interesting. We'll present characters that are likely and unlikely to return in intervals, meaning we present one that is very unlikely to return, then we present one that is very likely to return. But don't worry, you'll see what we mean in a little bit. For example, how likely is it that Grandma Chio will return? After all, she was already brought back during the 4th grade Shinobi War via Edo Tensei. So maybe if another Edo Tensei were to happen, she would return once more. Well, not so likely in our opinion. Her returning once was already a bit too much, and it did create a bunch of plot holes too for it. You see, Edo Tensei are supposed to return in their prime forms. Take Madara's example, that returned in his prime and not in his old version, but Chio returned as an old lady. So yeah, I'm pretty sure the producers already realized that what they did was a mistake, and thus are not gonna repeat it a second time. Not to mention that her appearing in the first was already feeling a bit pointless. She gets a mere 0.1% chance of returning in Boruto. But now, let's see someone that I would say is almost 100% confirmed to return. That would be none other than Tobirama Senju. So hear me out on this one. There are two plot points that make sense for his return. The one is that all Kage will return when the time is right, in order to assist during a difficult battle. Among those, Hokage Tobirama will be included. But this is not close to 100%, right? Well, even if that does not happen, Tobirama will return for another reason. You see, it's almost certain that by the end of Naruto, Sarada will become the Hokage. And well, when that happens, Tobirama will emerge from the grave on his own. No Edo Tensei or advanced jutsus, just Tobirama's pure hatred of the Uchiha will be enough to bring him back, cause ain't no way an Uchiha will take the Hokage position and Tobirama will do nothing about it. So we're giving this a 99.9% chance of becoming true. Now these were just the first two characters. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and let's keep going. Next, we have Shikaku Nara. Now I'm not gonna lie, I'd love for him to return, but do you recall the way he died? He was caught up in a massive tail beast bomb that destroyed the Allied Shinobi Force's headquarters. And do you remember one of the vital requirements needed to perform the Edo Tensei? A piece of their DNA. Since Shikaku was blown to smithereens, I find it kind of impossible that something remained behind that would make possible his reanimation. We're giving him a 0.5% chance of returning. Something very similar could be said about Inoichi Yamanaka. His return would indeed be emotional, but yeah, nothing really remained of him. Similarly to Shikaku, we're giving him a 0.5% chance of returning too. Okay, let's talk about someone that is likely to return next. Shisui. When it comes to Shisui, we got very little info on him so far, despite being among the fan favorites, as well as considered among the most talented and strongest Uchihas to have ever lived. I mean, Itachi looked up to him, so this should really say a lot about him. As many theories claim, he may make his return in Boruto, and honestly, I'd really love to see it happening. I'm giving it an 80% chance of happening. Alright, so characters we mentioned so far were loved, but how about a hated one next? We now have to check on Danzo. So his strength and wisdom were undeniable, but there's a serious factor that I think is in the way of his reanimation. Who would need him so badly that they'd find a DNA sample to bring him back? I mean, 99.9% of people hated him, not to mention the fans as well. Like, would you want Danzo to return in Boruto? Let us know what you think in the comments down below. I seriously doubt he would return, so I'm gonna give it a 1% chance. We spoke about Danzo and Shisui, but how about Itachi next? You see, if someone has to return in Boruto, Itachi is definitely among the fan favorites, and someone highly likely to return. Yeah, Itachi already got his reunion with Sasuke, and someone could argue that his cycle was over, but imagine this. Itachi, Sasuke, and Sarada all fighting side by side. All of them using their Mangekyo abilities, all of them featuring their own Susanoo, each with a different color. Itachi orange, Sasuke purple, Sarada pink. Now tell me this wouldn't be epic. I'm gonna give this a 75% chance of happening. Next up, Kimimaro. If you recall back in the day, he was considered something incredibly special, especially with his rare bloodline limit. But if we were to bring him back in Boruto, well, he would probably be one level below fodder characters. He cannot compete, is no longer relevant, and I cannot see a reason for him to return. He gets a 1.5% chance of returning. So we did speak about the Itachi, Sasuke, Sarada combo, but this next one's gonna be even better. Imagine if Minato returns. I mean, really, just picture the Minato, Naruto, Boruto combo, with Boruto basically being the combination of Minato and Naruto, using Minato's Flying Thunder God along with his grandfather on one hand, and using Rasengan combos with his dad on the other. Just thinking about it gives me chills. I'll be giving this a 55% chance of happening. But how about Deidara now? He is, after all, for sure way stronger than Kimimaro, right? Well, yeah, but still, it's kind of difficult he's gonna return. I mean, the Akatsuki are of the past, and I do find it a bit redundant that they would return. Even though I'd love to see characters like Deidara, Kisame, Kakuzu, and so on return, I think the chances are not very high. There are characters with way higher chances for coming back than them. Deidara gets a mere 2% chance. Alright, so next, let's see Neji. You see, Neji still holds a powerful place in the series' emotional legacy, and that leaves a small but open door for his possible return. His death during the 4th Great Ninja War was tragic and symbolic, meant to break the cycle of fate that had defined the Hyuga clan. However, since Boruto has started to explore more abstract and expansive themes, such as alternate dimensions, divine chakra, and reality-bending Otsutsuki powers, it's still not certain how Neji would fit in the story. But nonetheless, many theories claim that he might actually return. Would be a touching reunion with Hinata and Naruto if it were to happen. So I'm gonna be giving it a 50% chance of happening. Okay, this next one is actually one of my favorites, so hear me out. I know it's probably never gonna happen, but how epic would it be if they reanimated Might Die? And why would someone want to reanimate a Genin of all people, someone might ask? Well, do I need to remind you that this guy was the original creator of the 8 Gates opening? Or at least the one who passed this down to Might Guy. And well, remember how the Edo Tensei works? The reanimated characters enjoy limitless chakra and limitless regeneration, meaning that Might Guy can literally just spam the 8 Gates over and over again with no drawbacks. How do you counter that? And unfortunately, that's the exact reason I believe that the producers are not going to bring him back, to avoid this type of issue. I give Might Guy a 3% chance of returning. On to the 4th Kazekage next. So for this one, there's already a magnet release user in Boruto, right? But on the other hand, the concept of all the Kage returning once more does sound kinda epic, so we're not gonna rule it out. I can actually see this concept coming to life sooner or later, and with that in mind, if all Kage are brought back, the 4th Kazekage will be among them. I give this a 48% chance of happening. The next one now is a bit weird, to be honest. Jiraiya. And why do I say it's weird, you might ask? Well, because we already have Kashin Koji, who's his clone. So him returning, even though it would be insanely epic, does feel like it'd be a bit redundant. Plus, Jiraiya's return in Boruto via Edo Tensei is highly unlikely, primarily due to the lack of a viable DNA sample required to perform the reanimation jutsu. But then again, how was Amado able to clone Jiraiya, right? Well, this means that only Amado had somehow acquired a sample of Jiraiya, and since he already created Kashin Koji, actually reanimating Jiraiya feels a bit unlikely. Plus, I do feel that Naruto would stand in the way of someone bringing back Jiraiya, even if Naruto himself would really love for a reuniting with his master. But Naruto is sealed, right? Well, I'm pretty sure he's gonna return. The only question is, when? We give Jiraiya a 3.5% chance of returning. And now from the teacher to the student, let's talk about Yahiko. Well, I'll be pretty brief with this one, as I think there's no actual reason anyone would want to bring him back. He wasn't an insanely powerful character, no part of any special clans, and no special abilities or traits, even if his DNA is not so easily accessible. I'll be giving it a mere 4% chance of happening. But since we mentioned Yahiko, let's also talk about Nagato. Well, for him, there are possible plot points that would make his reanimation make sense. For example, if someone is in need of the Rinnegan that Nagato possessed, then maybe they could revive him. Or maybe they will just need help fighting a stronger opponent. And well, Nagato is surely among the strongest shinobi they could come up with if we're considering his prime days. He gets 47% chance of returning. But how about Conan now? Well, if you recall, Conan died in battle against Obito Uchiha after refusing to give him Nagato's Rinnegan. Her body was never shown being retrieved, and she was not brought back during Kabuto's Edo Tensei during the 4th Great Ninja War, even though everyone and their grandmother were brought back, and I mean it almost literally. This was likely because her body was unrecoverable. So even though it's not impossible that someone somehow got a hold of her DNA, the same way Amado managed to get a hold of Jiraiya's DNA, I think it's going to be a bit difficult for her to return. We're giving it a mere 6.9% chance of returning. Next, let's talk about the character you've all been waiting for, Madara Uchiha. Similar to Nagato, if someone requires strong fighters to fight for them, then Madara would indeed be a viable option, to say the least. There is, however, a small issue with Madara being reanimated. He knows how to break free from the bindings that basically control and tell him what and how he needs to behave. Meaning, from a mindless doll without his own free will that basically just follows instructions from his caster, he becomes fully autonomous and uses his own free will to do as he pleases. So if someone is to bring Madara back, then yeah, they need to be really careful. We give a 46% chance for Madara to return. But since we previously mentioned Obito, how likely is it that he will return? Well, Obito being reanimated is kinda unlikely, primarily because his narrative arc in Naruto Shippuden reached a powerful and conclusive end. He died after redeeming himself, helping Naruto and Kakashi defeat Kaguya, and then passed into the afterlife with Rin, a moment symbolic of peace and closure for his tormented soul. Reintroducing him through Edo Tensei would risk undermining that emotional resolution. However, Obito is indeed among the fan favorites, so we cannot completely rule out this possibility. We're giving it a 10% chance of happening. Moving on to Hashirama. We already mentioned that the concept of all Kage returning is very viable the way I see it. And even more than that, Hashirama could also return as part of just an Edo Tensei targeting only the strongest or the ones with the rarest abilities, which we all know Hashirama falls into both of those categories. He gets a 42% chance of returning. But how about another fan favorite now? Let's talk about Zabuza next. So Zabuza has already been reanimated once, but the issue is that as things stand right now, he'd probably be way too weak for the current state of Boruto, let alone if the series progresses even further than it is now. Let's go ahead and give that an 11% chance of happening. Having spoken about Zabuza, we also need to talk about Haku. I mean, those two go together, so yeah. The only thing I'll say is that if Haku returns, then he would become the best waifu in Boruto as well. Same as Zabuza, he gets an 11% chance of returning. And now we have Hiruzen. So we're not going to speak a lot about him, so we don't have to repeat the same points over and over. If all the Kage are brought back, then Hiruzen will probably be amongst them. He gets a 40% chance of returning. Okay, so let's talk about Rin now as well. Hear me out on this one. It'd definitely make a fine reunion with Kakashi, but there's no actual reason anyone would revive her. She's not strong, no special powers, and quite frankly, if she were to be brought back, this would happen in Shippuden. Her character is now irrelevant in the times of Boruto. We're gonna give her a 12% chance of returning, but an even better reunion would be the following. What if Fugaku Uchiha is brought back? You see, we already got a reunion of Naruto with his parents, but Sasuke never got to see his. And knowing that Fugaku was considered a relatively strong member of the Uchiha clan, this could serve as both a strong fighter as well as a great reunion for Sasuke. Even though not so likely, it's still a nice possibility to think about. We'll go ahead and give it a 17% chance of happening. We spoke about Minato being reanimated, but what if Kushina is brought back now? Well, it'd definitely be nice for Himawari and Boruto to meet their grandmother, not to mention quite wholesome as well. But the chances are not that high, I imagine. Could make for a fine Uzumaki family reunion, I guess, so I'm gonna give it a 30% chance of happening. Alright, so this next one up is a bit weird, I think. Hidan. I mean, Hidan was never reanimated in Naruto Shippuden, and the likelihood of him appearing in Boruto, whether reanimated or otherwise, is kinda low. But there is a plot point that would make sense if he were to return. What if someone decides to further explore Hidan's immortality? After all, it would be an important tool in the upcoming all-out war that will inevitably come against Shibai Otsutsuki. A very popular theory, which I kinda believe as well to be honest, is that Hidan's immortality was nothing more than a shinjutsu. So maybe someone will bring Hidan back in order to explore or extract this shinjutsu for themselves. We're gonna give it an 18% chance of happening. But what if next we talk about Kaguya? First of all, let's just mention that she's only sealed and not dead, so she could technically return. But the issue that I have with that is that this would be kinda repetitive. We already have a bunch of Otsutsuki in the story, and a bunch more that the creators can very easily introduce if they want to. So I think Kaguya returning is not so likely after all. We give this a 20% chance of happening. How about Asuma then next? Well, Asuma was already reanimated in Naruto Shippuden during the 4th grade ninja war by Kabuto, where he fought against members of the allied shinobi forces, including his former students from Team 10, Ino, Shikamaru, and Choji, meaning that the emotional encounter has already occurred, and thus it would indeed feel repetitive if it were to happen again. We'll go ahead and give this one a 21% chance of happening. But here, we should also mention a bonus point. Naruto and Sasuke are kinda supposed to be gone, and Hinata, of course, that is together with Naruto. So, will they return? Yes, and we actually believe they have a 100% chance of returning. Now, whether they will all survive until the end, well, that remains to be seen. Small spoiler, we kind of found some worrying details about the potential death for one of them. But more on that in this video, where we present 30 small details you did not realize in Naruto and Boruto. Go on, check it out!